without any further ado, long before there was Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert, there was Mark Russell. His comedy specials on public television were a favorite for more than 30 years. But he says his highest honor was being lampooned on Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons. Please welcome comedian, piano player, and Buffalo's finest export since Millard Fillmore, Mark Russell.
Thank you, Greg Peterson. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin, I would like to announce that this performance will be immaculately clean. Out of respect for this distinguished table right here, the Chautauqua chapter of Jehovah's Witnesses. I told Greg Peterson, I said I retired. I'm not going to be doing any more political humor. Why? Because there's no material. I live in Washington, D.C. Nothing is going on in Washington, D.C. if you don't count the end of civilization as we know it. I have another complaint. I read somewhere where the title of this show is Mark Russell's Midterm Report. Nobody rang that by me. It sounds kind of dull. I wanted to call the show, When They Go Low, I Get High. So I'm happy to be here. I'm 86. I'm happy to be anywhere. When I turned 80, people said, oh, 80 is the new 60. No, it isn't. 80 is 80. 80 isn't the new anything unless it's the new 90. Now, as far as politics is concerned, as a Christian, I am required to love Donald Trump. But I needed assistance. So I asked God to help me love Donald Trump. And God said, that's funny. His mother asked me to do the same thing. He said there was no collusion with the Russians. I believe him. Because if there had been collusion with the Russians, Hillary Clinton would not be president. I'll give you 2 more seconds on that. It's a little bit complicated. I know you've had a lot to eat, and by the way, I want to thank Goodyear for the chicken. Now, here's the thing. Couldn't resist. So how do I balance the show? And it's about balance. Balance, my friends. The yin and the yang together. I believe that the rings around the planet Saturn are all of Donald Trump's tax records. I believe that the rings around the planet Jupiter are Hillary's emails. That's all the balance you're going to get tonight. I believe in the statistic that says in the year 2020, that year alone, 250,000 Americans will reach the age of 100. And they will all have valid Florida driver's licenses. And speaking of driving, have you ever been out on these country roads and you see the signs, adopt a highway? You've seen those signs, adopt a highway. Here's my question. If a gay couple adopts a highway, will the highway grow up to be straight? Evangelicals believe that homosexuality is an abomination because it's in the Bible. They are right. It's in the book of Leviticus, which follows the verse that says it's an abomination to touch the skin of a dead pig. a dead pigskin, which puts football in a whole new light. And as more and more states are legalizing recreational marijuana and same-sex marriage, because it says in the Bible that when two men lie together, they must be stoned. And then you have the heterosexual couple having an argument. And the husband says to his wife, "How come you never tell me when you're having an orgasm?" And she says, "I'm never near a phone." For my second song, as some of you know, I was born and raised in Buffalo. I have a winter home there. A winter home in Buffalo. I went to Catholic school. Tom to Marigold, Sacrament. Every year in Buffalo in Catholic school, we got the day off on the feast of Saint Pedophilia. A few years later, I joined the Marine Corps. During the Korean War, the Forgotten War. I never forgot. I was wounded during that war. It was in Tijuana, but I was wounded. That's the Mexican hat dance. I'll let you know. Anyway. So I came home, raised a family. 3 children, 7 grandchildren. Like the time the 5-year-old said to me, "Grandpa, when are you going to make a noise like a frog?" I said, "Why do you want me to make a noise like a frog?" He said, "Mommy says as soon as you croak, we're all going to Hawaii." I also have a great-grandson, 3 years old, cute little fella. He was one of the early Trump supporters. Single white male with no college. A few years later, I had a show on public television. People still remember the show. Just the other day, an old guy went up to me and said, "Where's the men's room?" No, he remembered. He said, "We always used to watch your show on PMS." So I started writing song parodies. Now, we go back, we're going to do this in chronological order. We go back 3 years ago, 2015. At that time, there were 17 people who wanted to become the Republican nominee. Do you remember that? They already had these debates, and there were 17. Trump started to move up, and that made the Republican establishment a little bit nervous. They were for Ted Cruz. Some of them were for Jeb Bush. Some were from Carly Fiorina. When I drop names, I don't mess around. Carly Fiorina, right? It's like Sammy and Dean. Carly, right. So Trump is moving up, and the Republicans are getting nervous. 3 years ago, remember? And I decided, well, I had an idea for a song parody, and I decided I will take the high road with Mr. Trump. I will not stoop to his level. I will deal with him with sophistication and nuance. Sophistication and nuance. Oh, the Donald is a schmuck. T-R-U-M-P. He's high in the polls, that's just our luck, says the GOP. He drove away the women and the Mexicans too. He'll carry the bigots, well, hoop-de-doo. With the Donald we are stuck. O-S-H-I-T. To the uneducated he's all the rage, yearning to be led. That thing on his head he puts in a cage when he goes to bed. Give me a T, give me an R, give me a U-M-P. Dumb it down for posterity. He's good for comedy. Yes, it's true. Vote for the Donald and the joke's on you. Bah. All right, that was the first one. And then came the idea. It's been over a year and we've all had a chance to assess our commander-in-chief. After careful assessment, here is my honest belief. Crazy. The guy we elected is crazy. Maybe a second opinion is due. Yeah, he's crazy. And that is my second opinion. Regarding his marbles, he's missing more than a few. Do you think he will fire Bob Mueller? He's backed in a corner, it's true. Do you think he will pardon Bill Cosby? What? I wouldn't put it past him, would you? All right, well, maybe. I'll support him, although I'm very annoyed. Because without him, comedians surely would be unemployed. All right. January 20th, high noon, 2017, he's sworn in as the Marine Band plays Hail to the Chief. Hail to the Chief as he moves into the White House. As the mannequin Melania stayed up in the Tower of Trump, she took a look at the house that went with Donald Trump and said, oh, I could never live at such a sleazy dump. 3 million votes behind the one who was more qualified. Elected by the Russians with hacks beyond belief. His hand is on a copy of his book, Art of the Deal. So raise your arms and of salute for the groper in chief. Well, about a year and a half ago, they landed in D.C. A brand new White House cabinet, sleazy as could be. Through the revolving door they came to serve their president. They were either dim or crooked or just incompetent. Do you remember Rice Priebus? His appointment was a laugh. As chief of staff, he lasted about a week and a half. Replaced by General Kelly, the man who guards the door. Every day he's miserable, he's a masochist for sure. And dare I mention Michael Flynn, a disgrace to his Irish name. The man who shouted, lock her up, he's in the Felons Hall of Shame. At EPA, Scott Pruitt resigned, and that is that. He wanted to spend so much more time believing the earth is flat. Jeff Sessions quotes the Bible to justify some outrages. His version of family values lock the children in cages. As Robert Mueller closes in on this array of hacks, in case you missed it the last time around, Watergate is back. Who's the biggest Trump nut who can't keep his trap shut? Giuliani. His TV ad libs proves the president fibs. Giuliani. He's very good when it comes to the president's bidding. Committing a crime on Twitter. Hey, he's just kidding. And it's no surprise there are 4,000 lies and still counting. It's all in a lawyer's day's work, and these are the facts. Stormy Daniels was paid. Donald did not get laid. Ha! That's a beauty. The money he gave and the marriage was saved. Thank you, Rudy. There. Stormy Daniels. I'll tell you this. If Al Franken ever gave $130,000 to a porn star, he would still be a senator. So all I have to do is quote Trump directly. Just directly, like the time he said, I can pardon myself. I can pardon myself, and that's the truth. While I'm at it, Paul Manafort and John Wilkes Booth, I can pardon Bernie Madoff, that notorious crook. I can get Martha Stewart off the hook. I'm a pardoning fool, it's gone to my head. I can set you free, it doesn't matter if you're dead. I'm way above the law, says my legal staff. Obstruction of justice, don't make me laugh. I can take away your security clearance. I draw huge crowds when I make an appearance. When I open open my mouth and out comes the bile. Throw your arm in the air, shout, Sieg Heil. In Charlottesville, if you wore a white sheet, I can pardon us both. All it takes is a tweet. Quote him directly. Like the time he said, we are infested with refugees. Oh, he called the refugees an infestation. Separating families he allowed. But the real infestation's in the White House. An exterminator is needed now. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of luck, we'll get one now. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of bloom and luck. Oh, he holds rallies almost on a daily basis, spitting out his venom with each word. As history is repeated in this crisis, his rallies look like Nuremberg. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of luck, we'll lose this turd. With a little bit, it rhymes, with a little bit of bloom and luck. And we'll forgive you if you voted for him. Just don't let it happen anymore. He loves that thug who's working in the Kremlin. With this dictator, he's hopping in the sack. Do you remember when Canada was an ally? All together, shouted out that dump this hack. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of luck, we'll dump this hack. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of bloom and luck. It's way past time when we brought ourselves together. To fumigate the White House would be fine. A fresh new start, a new beginning, whatever. In a perfect world, he would resign. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of luck, he would resign. With a little bit, with a little bit, with a little bit of blooming. Bring back Bush or even Truman. This guy's demented, I'm thinking. This nut thinks that he's Lincoln. With a little bit of bloom and luck. Yeah. Now you notice that the word Trump does not appear in that song. That's because the song is about Mike Pence. Now, when I talk about the rallies, and I compare them to Nuremberg, and I imply the Nazi salute, am I going too far? No. So there they are at the rallies. The media's in the back of the room. You know what he does? There they are, the media, enemy of the people. Go get them. The enemy of the people. So what is the enemy of the people doing in the back of the room? They are televising him, enabling his supporters all around the country to watch him on television. The next time he does that, they should pack up their cameras and get the hell out of there. So what are the Democrats going to do? Who are they going to come up with? You ask any Democrat, you run down the list of possible hopefuls. Well, what about this guy? How about this one? How about her? If the election were tomorrow, Trump would win. So that's the way it is. You know, look at the two kinds of Democratic candidate. One whose nomination would provoke Fox News into saying yes, right? And the other kind of candidate would provoke Fox News to say, oh, shit. They don't have an oh, shit candidate. All they have is a yes candidate. But Elizabeth Warren. I like Elizabeth Warren. I might vote for Elizabeth Warren. But let's be realistic. She was nominated. Fox News would pounce on her with that unfortunate Pocahontas slur. Pocahontas is the crooked Hillary of 2020. And you say, well, that's not fair. You're right, it's not fair. But remember, this is politics. You want fairness? Perhaps a nice game of croquet would suit you. And so we hear names. Cory Booker. Young, he's attractive. Yeah, Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, former mayor of Newark, and an African American. Hashtag too soon. And then we have some dark horse candidates like the former mayor of New Orleans, Mitch Landrieu, you know, the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. That's about how he's doing. That's an old showbiz trick, Lewis. You might write it down. Now, there's a very attractive young congressman, Democrat from Texas named Joaquin Castro. Well, you imagine what Fox News would do with that name. And I don't mean Joaquin. And then we have our old favorites, Uncle Joe Biden and Grandpa Bernie Sanders, having the combined age of a redwood tree. Now, I want to talk about the Supreme Court. We have a vacancy on the Supreme Court. Anthony Kennedy stepped down, and Trump nominated Kavanaugh. And Mr. Kavanaugh, Judge Kavanaugh, is a conservative, and already his nomination has provoked Justice Scalia to be gloating in his grave. Justice Scalia is dead. See, and then anyway. And so Kavanaugh, if confirmed, would be the fifth Roman Catholic on the court. The non-Catholics are Kagan, Ginsburg, Breyer, Roe, and Wade. Now, the opponents of Roe v. Wade, they have this theory that a fetus at 20 weeks, a 20-week-old fetus can, quote, fondle itself and feel pleasure, unquote. Now, as I recall, in my case, it was more like 15 weeks. Now, I mentioned Texas. We have some Texans here. They're the ones with the jewelry. And we're dear friends. And I learned, first time I went to Texas, the three major religions in Texas are high school football, barbecue, and lethal injection. I know people in Texas who have season tickets to all three. And there was a court case, I've talked about this before, about 15 years ago, I think it was Johnson versus Texas, and this was about consensual gay sex. It was about that. Now, this is a guy named Johnson and his partner were caught on flagrante, consensual, and they were arrested and thrown in jail, and it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, if it's consensual, go ahead, knock yourselves out. And so, which provoked Justice Scalia to predict, and I quote, he said, this will only lead to incest and bestiality. Now, first of all, bestiality, sex with animals, is never consensual. Never. Your dog sees you coming toward him. He's thinking, take me for a walk, scratch my head if you want, but that's it. And then there's another case, very, very familiar with the Robert H. Jackson people, and that is Barnett versus West Virginia. This is the Jehovah's Witness case. Students, children in West Virginia, they were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they refused to pledge allegiance to the flag because it was against their religion. And the teachers were actually taking the kids' arms and making them pledge allegiance to the flag. And this reached the Supreme Court, and Justice Robert Jackson delivered the majority opinion, which I will quote that opinion. Now, a few years ago, I set that opinion to music. I will spare you that tonight. You'll be happy to know. But let me paraphrase Justice Jackson's opinion in the Jehovah's Witness case. If there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prevent a football player from kneeling during the national anthem. You may not like it, but in my opinion, that's what Justice Jackson was saying. And I might further add that we dispense from the national anthem during sporting events because it is usually butchered. Can you see? So how would Jackson react to some of the current cases about these Christian bakeries, right? Can a Christian bakery be forced to sell hot cross buns to Jewish lesbians? All right, I made that up. But the most recent case in Colorado, this was Masterpiece Cake Company versus the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. And can a Christian baker be forced to make a wedding cake with two men on top, two women on top, two men and a goat on top, whatever? And the court said, no, you can't force the baker. Why? Because baking is speech. That's like at Citizens United, remember money is speech? I don't think speech is speech anymore, but now they say that baking is speech. And if baking is speech, you cannot muzzle a tart. Any tarts in here, we know who you are. So that's the baker. What about the butcher and the candlestick maker? What about the shoemaker? Can a Christian shoemaker save the soul? Sorry. So, well, next year they're taking out the florist. There's a case about a Christian florist. And again, the question, can a Christian florist be allowed to have a sign in the window that says, this flower shop is pansy free? And so on and on and on. Can a transgender person be forced to bring a birth certificate to go to the bathroom in North Carolina when the only alternative is to go to the bathroom in South Carolina? Now, North Carolina is a great state. I have family there, and I love them dearly, but I must do my job. Here's a fact you must assume: to use the powder room in Carolina. If you're gender, you have trans, have your birth ID in hand, or they will fine ya. If you are now a woman, the governor does not care. He says, now use the men's room. No one will bother you there. To break the bathroom law is a crime. Where do politicians find the time? Can you perceive it? Down in old NC, bring your birth ID to P. Can you believe it? That state sure must be tranquil and at peace through and through. The cops must all look busy. So here's what they do: hang around the bathroom stall to see if you have balls in Carolina. When a man becomes a woman, she will make 74 cents for every dollar she made as a man. You think employers would be fine with that? So this issue is debated all over the world, including Ireland. On a transgender cleric, a procedure was done. Father Murphy is now Sister Margaret, and none of this odd situation. The church was the cause. When a woman cannot be the priest she once was. Hi, Lily. Hi, Lily. Here's a story about an immigrant, a dirty immigrant, a filthy immigrant, came over here from Russia. And what did he do? He had the audacity to write, "God bless America." I'm referring, of course, to Irving Berlin. In order to set up this next bit, which I hope goes better than the last one, I will play one of Irving Berlin's first songs. He wrote it back in 1910. Some of you might remember it. All of you might remember it. Come on in here. Come on in here. Alexander's Ragtime Band. Come on in here, come on in here. It's the bestest band, what am? They can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you want to go to war. That's just the bestest band, what am? My honey lamb, come on along, and let me take you by the hand. To meet the band, to meet the man who's the leader of the band. And if you want to hear the Swanee River played in ragtime, come on in here, Alexander's Ragtime Band. Here's an updated parody about the hottest musical ever to hit Broadway in decades. Come on in here, Alexander Hamilton. A Broadway show, and did you know those founding fathers sure had fun as they sang and danced across the stage the British would attack, only to discover that George Washington was black, as was Thomas Jefferson, a theatrical fact. Come on along, and let me take you by the hand. To take a tron, have your credit card in hand. You can pay $1,000 just to see it right away, or $850 for a Tuesday matinee. There's a ticket, scalper in plain sight for every light on Old Broadway. And Aaron Burr, that dirty cur, he moved in for the kill. Hey, Al, said he, you'll never be on the new $10 bill. So if you want to see what happens, better save your pennies. Sell an heirloom for standing room at Alexander Hamilton. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Alexander Hamilton. Yeah, there we go. Alexander Hamilton. Now the show, the average Broadway show has about 23, 25 songs. Hamilton has about 42 songs, all written by the genius Lin-Manuel Miranda, who also played the lead of Hamilton in the original Broadway cast. Now, a lot of the music is hip-hop. Now, don't let that turn you off. It was adapted from the novel, the biography rather, by Ron Chertow. And Lin-Manuel Miranda read this and was inspired to write the musical. Now, when Ron Chertow heard that there was hip-hop in there, he was appalled. He later changed his tune when he saw the show, and at last count, Ron Chertow had seen the show 22 times. Now, the song I'm going to do for you is a real showstopper. It's not hip-hop, although I'm certainly capable of doing hip-hop under my hip-hop stage name, Iced Coffee. Iced tea was taken. Well, so here's the song. It's sung by King George III, the villain, obviously, in the American Revolution. We think of King George III as a big fat man with a beard, but in this performance, the actor playing George III is a young, very handsome actor. And he comes out, and he's dressed in this garish fire engine red velvet cloak with a crown that stands 2 feet on his head, and he has a message to the American colonists. So here he comes. King George, he's coming out. He's taking little steps. Here he is. He's mincing is what he is. You want to know. Here he is. And here's King George III with a message to the colonists. You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry on the tea that you spilled on the tea that you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we had an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. Remember, you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. Remember how I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. Together we went through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. You say your love is draining as you can't go on. You'll be the one complaining when I'm gone. And no, don't change the subject. For you're my favorite subject, my sweet submissive subject, my loyal royal subject forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war for your love, for your praise. I will love you till my dying days. When you're gone, I'll go mad, which he does. So don't throw away this thing we had. That's my favorite line in the song. Don't throw away this thing we had. And when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. King George III. A lot of times I wind up a show and people say, how do you remember all that stuff? And I would say, remember what? There are ways to improve one's memory. Crossword puzzles, over-the-counter products. What I do is see if I can get through a kind of a complex song. I did this last time, but I've updated it. And it's a tricky song called 45 POTUSes. You political junkies know that POTUS stands for President of the United States. And in this song, really, we get the entire history of our country in about a couple of minutes. So wish me luck. Here we go with 45 POTUSes. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Jackson, and Van Buren. William Henry Harrison caught pneumonia, he would done. Then John Tyler, Tippecanoe, James K. Polk, how do you do? Zachary Taylor, call him Zach. Millard Fillmore, what a hack. Franklin Pierce, who was he? Jane Buchanan, obscurity. Who's next? I don't recall. Oh my gosh, I've hit the wall. Then a snag in my song, come back later and move along. Johnson, Grant, and Rutherford, Hayes, these fellas meant no harm. For the last for James Gay Garfield, the poor man bought the farm. Chester Allen didn't go far, Ma, where's my pa? Grover Cleveland in the White House, ha, ha, ha. Another Harrison named Ben. Who's next? Grover Cleveland. What again? William McKinley, no, don't shuffle off to Buffalo. San Juan Teddy making history. Big Bill Taft, fatter than Chris Christie. Woodrow Wilson went to war, and Warren Harding was a bore. Calvin Coolidge, Yucca Trust. Herbert Hoover, Wall Street bust. FDR had the longest stay. Harry Truman, bombs away. Ike was a general, as you know. JFK knew Marilyn Monroe. LBJ wrote the Voting Rights Act. Nixon was a crook, in fact. Ford's time in office kind of quick, and it didn't help when he pardoned Dick. Jimmy Carter, the Peanut Man. I bet he wishes that he never heard of Iran. Ronnie Reagan from the start always seemed to be acting the part. Bush 41 was for Hillary, and I'll bet so was 43 and the rest of the Bush family. Under 42, the economy was sound. Clinton balanced the budget, but he fooled around. 44, Obama, what a legacy. 45, the Donald. OMG. Wait a minute. Who did I leave out? Abraham Lincoln, our greatest POTUS. I left him out on purpose just to see if you would notice. I did it. Thank you very much for doing it. Now, I want to pay respects and honor to two men who are here tonight. You all know them. And I was commissioned to write this next song by the Honorable Judge Salvatore Martocci from Buffalo. He's sitting over there. And as some of you know, Martocci is the keeper of the flame of General Wild Bill Donovan, who founded the Office of Strategic Services in World War II, the forerunner of the Central Intelligence Agency. And Sal commissioned me to write this song. He's like Greg Peterson. You know, these guys tell you what to do. You salute, click your heels. They say jump when you say how high. And so, this is for Sal, the Ballad of Wild Bill. General Wild Bill Donovan. Yes, his name was Wild Bill. An Irish lad from Buffalo with a mission to fulfill. He won the Medal of Honor. In the First World War, that was just a rehearsal for what would be in store. He then became a lawyer. That was back in the day. We won't hold that against him. No one's perfect, as they say. As war clouds gathered with all Europe in distress, intelligence was needed. So he formed the OSS. With the Office of Strategic Services, the Allies would be saved. And Wild Bill Donovan helped put Hitler in his grave. The OSS became the CIA to carry on the fight against the flak from the enemy. Congressional oversight. You can draw a line from Donovan to the CIA, which led to the Navy SEALs at Abbottabad just to serve bin Laden's dead. There are unnamed stars on Langley's wall, enshrined in secrecy. And with Wild Bill Donovan, they kept our country free. Sal Martocci, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Now, the other man I want to honor tonight is Greg Peterson. Now, Greg Peterson is not only the keeper of the flame of Justice Jackson, but he's also a history buff, and he is a sports buff, a baseball connoisseur. And Greg Peterson has autographed baseballs from every major leaguer you can think of, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and all these people. He's got these baseballs at his, where is Greg? Did he leave? Oh, there he is. Okay, so he doesn't have what I'm about to present him right now. In 1925, the Washington Senators, the old Washington Senators, were in the World Series with the New York Giants. And it was the end of the game, the score's tied, there's 2 outs, there's a man on third, and the Giants batter gets up, and he hits an easy grounder, and the ball hits a pebble. This has all been documented in the Ken Burns series, many baseball books. This ball hits a pebble, and it bounces over the second baseman's head. The runner scores, and that's history. And Greg, I want to present to you the actual pebble. Here it is. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There is the pebble. Here is the certificate. All documented. Historic pebble. This pebble enabled the New York Giants to win the 1925 World Series. It's from the president of the American Pebble Association, Rocky Stone, president. So there you are. There you are. You can have this bag. Now, this show's been over for about 10 minutes, by the way. Now, the Jehovah's Witness table, it's been quite a week with the opening of the National Comedy Center. I'm telling you. A lot of you here are just here for the season. I'm telling you, you can end the season on a high, a euphoric note if you go to Jamestown and go to the Comedy Center. It is unbelievable. And this young lady here, Journey Gunderson, she made it happen. She made it happen. And Journey, do you remember Journey's grandmother, Wendy Llewellyn, who had the Wensley house over there? Yeah, that's her grandmother. And I remember the Wensley, and Bill Clinton stayed there a couple of times. I told Winnie, put up a sign in the parlor. It says, Bill Clinton slept here with God knows who, you know? And when he said, that's whom. So Journey, when she was a little girl, she had a dream to one day bring a national comedy center to Jamestown. It made so much sense because 100 years ago, Jamestown was founded by Swedish furniture makers. What better audience for comedy than Swedish furniture makers? And so the link between big-time showbiz and major comedy was Kelly Carlin. She provided that link. And her father, George Carlin, is prominently displayed in the Comedy Center. It's a magic place. And Louis Black, the problem, what an honor to have. Yeah, no pressure, right? I mean, up there. Because when a comedian sees somebody work, they take on, without even realizing it, they take on the characteristics. I don't care what happens. For example, when I was a kid growing up in Buffalo, on Sunday night we listened to Jack Benny on the radio. And the next day I'd go to school. And the guys would pick on me, you know. And I'd say, now cut that out. You can't help it. So I had to really use discipline tonight to avoid using any of Lewis's style or genre, if you will. And I hope you do, because if I did, and you can't help yourself. When I slip into a style, it'd be silly. It'd be contrived. And if I ever did try to emulate that style, I know it, I'd only fuck it up. So with that, I leave you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Russell!
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You were wonderful.
Thank you.